Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside of their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 55. I am here with Mike Webb, and our guest for today is Jay Gonzales. He is a firefighter out of Oklahoma, and we're just going to go running the gamut today. We're going to talk real estate investing, injury, things like that. So, Jay, if you can go ahead and start off, let us know, what got you into the fire service, how long you've been in the fire service, stuff like that, and we'll just go from there.
Okay. Let's see. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Mike and Tyler. This is my first podcast, so hopefully I do well.
Nice.
So, so I've been in the fire service since 2014. So I remember. I was just going from job to job. I did like installing cable, mowing yards for myself for a while, spraying yards for a company. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I partied a lot in my early and mid 20s, and then I was like, I got to do something in my life. Always thought firefighting was cool. I applied like when I was 22. I didn't know anything about the process. I didn't really want the job. I just like, okay, might as well, apply. But, after a while, I was, all right, I got to do something for my life. And I remember, I think there was, I don't know what year it was a big tornado that happened and a lot of people got hurt and stuff. So I was hurry up and driving home. It was crazy weather outside. And I saw a fire engine just hauling ass to going towards the scene. I was like, dang, like that's kind of cool. That's awesome. And I got goosebumps. And then this was like when I was like 24. So ever since then, I kept applying at every single department that was hiring. And I wanted to go for the Metro department. They're the best and the biggest department in the state. And I kept applying. And 4 years, it took me 4 years to get on, and like probably like 10 to 12 different departments applications. So that was 2014. I got picked up. So I love the job. It's awesome. And it allows me, we're only at work 10 days a month. So 20 days off, we can do whatever we want, hang out at home, make money, create wealth for our family and all that. So, but it's been awesome. So it's been a ride for sure.
Nice. So you've been a fireman for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
At what point in your career, you said you've always had side hustles and you like to make money. At what point in your firefighting career did you decide real estate was what you wanted to focus on as a second income or as an investment source?
Well, I've got into real estate, reading books and podcasts like well before I got on the job. And it's just always been like, that's cool. Flipping houses, rentals, passive income, which is not really passive. But, I've got into it. Let's see. I was talking about it forever, and then reading some books, 2014, my first year in the service, and kept talking about it and reading books, telling my wife was like, all right, you can do something about it or what? And so I started a network and finding these groups, these networking events and going to them. And I think 2017, I had a shift of departments. And so I got into another department at 2017. And I had to put all that behind me because I had to focus on, being a recruit for a whole year. And we all know that's super hard. It's tough.
Always fun.
And I was mowing yards at the time. So I was mowing yards for like 6 or 7 years. And we all know that's a hustle too. And a lot of firemen do that. It's great money. It's just, it's hard on your body.
Yeah.
So 2017, I got really focused on my job, and all the way up until about 2019 is when we first bought our rental. So after that, kind of was done with some training, some relief driver training. So I was free for a while until there's another issue I'm having right now. It's like I'm eligible now for promotion for sergeant. And so I'm back on the chopping block. Like, oh my gosh, building my business or advancing my career, which one's kind of more important for the very moment right now. We have a second baby coming up in a couple months. So I'm like, oh my gosh, continue our business and create that legacy for our family, or continue to study for my career advancement because I want to. It's challenging. I love to do that, be an officer. it's just not at the right time right now. So it's just a little while, just all over the place right now in this moment right now.
Well, I can relate
So,
to that because I have promoted and I have kids, and it's like the old, there's never a perfect time.
I know.
And I'm very conscientious that when I'm at the firehouse, I'm at the firehouse, right?
Yep.
When I'm in my home office doing real estate stuff, I'm working on my real estate business, right? So being present wherever you're present, and that's a lot harder sometimes to do than it is to say. But I learned, so I've had two separate, I jokingly refer to them as deployments to the training academy, to where I've run a recruit class. And then whenever I promoted to captain, I oversaw recruit training for the department. So two separate times. And I tell that story because the first time I went there, I was already involved in real estate, but I was kind of the one-man band. I was the monkey playing the cymbals with his knees, pounding on the drum, strumming the guitar, and smoking a cigarette, wearing a visor all at the same time. Right? Yes, I was doing it all. Right. Mm-hmm. So whenever I got sent to the training academy to run a recruit class, it basically all stopped my business. And I was wholesaling and doing a bunch of stuff.
Like you got voluntold to do that.
Kind of, but not 100%. So I didn't realize the impact it was going to have on my business. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have systems. I didn't have people. I didn't have anything. So it basically messed up, for lack of a better term, my business. Fast forward a couple years later, I get promoted to captain. And that one I got voluntold to say, hey, you're leaving, this engine company. You're going to go work at the training academy Monday through Friday. Oh, by the way, we're going to pump through about 150 recruits while you're here. So
Jeez.
The difference being is the second time I had spent several years at that point building partnership, building a business, hiring an employee, hiring VAs, building systems. So when I was there the second time, while my workload was ridiculous, my business still kept chugging along. And then whenever I got transferred back to operations, I don't want to say it was like nothing ever happened, but my business was still there. It was still running and frankly, actually thriving. A lot of that was the market timing, but whatever. Yeah. The first time, nothing. Second time, business is still thriving. So what it's done in my mind is it's proof that you can build a business that can still operate and do all these things that we've talked about, the legacy wealth building, the extra income, while I'm still present at my W-2. Because one thing I've been very conscientious of, and I know firemen are firemen, whether you're in Oklahoma, California, or Maryland, there's people that will automatically sit there and say that firefighting is now your part-time job because this is your full-time job, and kind of, throw a little bit of that haterade your direction. Oh, yeah. But I always wanted to make sure, especially as I promoted, like trying to set the example, obviously. Like, I don't want to be the guy that comes to work to get a break. I hate that. Like, trust me, there's days I joke and, the kids are going crazy and you're like, oh, I get to just go deal with the big kids today. But, I don't want to be the guy that has to come to work so they can, sleep and be the shitbag that I often complain about. So you can do both, which is cool. And I just, there for a while, I was not doing that. So what is your real estate? You went from mowing grasses to spraying stop signs, or no, not stop signs, parking spots. Yeah. So how did that transition into rentals? Because that's definitely the get rich slow kind of game. But
and I thought it was easy to get into and like, cool, it's sexy, doing flips and making all this money. It's a lot of work. People think it's easy and all that, but there's a lot.
You can do it in a 60-minute episode. You can drive around in an Escalade. Everything's cool.
Oh yeah. Right? Hey, watch a YouTube video about how to wholesale and make 10 grand in 30 days or less. Like, it's a lot that goes into it. But primarily we're buying whole guys or, property. It's just me and my wife, right now she's pregnant. So it's really me handling everything. I don't want her to, and she's still working full time. So, so we're just buying lots and lots of rentals. We buy them pretty bad, nasty remodels. And we have been doing a lot of creative things in our rehabs by adding on a 600 square foot on the back of the house, you know, or adding an extra bedroom, adding an extra bathroom, just to creating that value, getting a higher appraised value. Because we'll get more money for rehab. And, you know, we don't spend any money in our deals, you know.
So let's wind that back just for a second. So you're just a fireman. You know, I use that term a lot. Like, I'm just a fireman. You have to have a lot of money to get started in real estate, obviously. We all know that's not the case, but that is the misconception sometimes folks have, is I can't go buy a rental property or a flip or whatever it is because I don't have $1 million, right?
Yeah.
So how did that first deal go? How did you get the funding to go buy that first rental?
Right. Well, so let me kind of preface this with that. When I got connected with, you know, the community and started to join all these networking events and groups and stuff, I met a couple that offered like group coaching and stuff. And so they kind of told us everything about flipping, rentals, wholesales, and all that stuff. But most importantly was bankers. So we got connected with a banker that was there, and he was like the best bankers for investors. I mean, I'm talking about he'll close in like 2 or 3 days. You don't have to have any money coming at, you know, at the closing table. They'll loan you 80% of what it's worth, you know, once it's fixed up. So if you save your money on some rehab, the difference is like you're pocketing it, you know. So our first one, I found it off of Craigslist. It's a duplex. And you know, so I got hooked up with that banker, and he's like, yeah, I'll give you 80% what it's worth. And so that wasn't a slamming good deal, but it was a duplex. And the best part about that was like right next door was another duplex that he also owned. So I was like, hey, what about that one? You want to sell this one? But what about that one? He's like, well, give me a year, you know, for tax purposes. Give me a year. So I was like, okay, well, I got this duplex under contract, and it was already rented out. So it was cash flowing. Well, once I was rented out and when I was paying for the mortgage, and the other half, it was just, you know, had to clean it up real quick, put some money in it. But I think I had to put down like $6,000 out of pocket, you know. So that was my first deal. And I still use that banker today. We have a pretty decent sized line of credit. You build a relationship with these bankers, and you have another banker, you build a relationship that they want to loan you money. You put your stuff on Facebook, kind of like the before and after pictures, put a lot of value out there. You know, people see what you do. And so they, you know, you're building credibility. You know, it's like, all right, I want to loan Jay money. Obviously he knows what he's doing. And same thing by going out to these communities. And really it's like, I find all these different types of Facebook networking events, and there's starting to be a lot of them pop up in my area, just all over, and they're all on Facebook. And so I just go to them and just try to talk to everybody, you know, because I'm still learning. I've been like, this was 2019 when I bought my first rental, and
we're always learning. We're always learning.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you can never know too much. I mean, there's always someone just outdoing you, you know. But yeah, our first one was a duplex in 2019. And I caught the bug, you know, because I was kind of just hanging out at the fire station. I'm done with the training. Don't have anything coming up in the next couple of years. So I've got connected with different bankers, private lenders. And the biggest part for me is I'm not a wholesaler. I've wholesale like 2 or 3. I'm a cash buyer because, you know, wholesalers, that's a lot of stuff you got to do. You know, you're in the trenches just finding these off-market properties, you know, marketing, stuff like that. I usually network with those wholesalers, and, you know, they know who I am now. They know I'm a good cash buyer and stuff like that. I'm a BS. And so that's where I get most of my leads and referrals and stuff from past like agents and stuff like that. So I don't market, but it's kept us so busy. Like right now, we got 7 rehabs going on right now. We had 9, we just knocked out 2, and so busy is an understatement. And I honestly don't like it. I liked it before when I was.
We can unpack a couple of those things
on days off, doing nothing, playing Call of Duty. But now I got a family coming up, and I got to make it happen for them. You know,
yeah, 100%.
Fire department's good pay and all that, but I'm thinking like passive fire department, something to leave behind for my children. You know, a legacy like that sign behind you, my legacy. So in real estate's where it's at, but it's not like watch a YouTube video and you make all this money. It's work. And, you know, like you, I was wearing a lot of hats right now. And I need to hire a team, like a handyman starters, because we're self-managing.
That in itself, that's like finding a unicorn.
Yeah, I know. That's why we're still self-managing, because it's hard finding good people.
Well, let's back up a little bit, because there's a lot of things you just cruised over, and I totally can relate to a lot of it. One of the Grant Cardone quotes that I really like, and everybody's got an opinion of him. It's the success is my responsibility, duty, and obligation. And when I think about that quote, it rings so true, and a lot of motivation. Like one of the main catalyst that made me take action was whenever I found out we were pregnant with my oldest son. And that was kind of like the reason. I keep saying I'm going to do it. I need to commit to it. Putting the blog post that I wrote about like my first deal, like what you just talked about. And it's one of those things, like, yeah, sitting around, I was never a video game guy like Call of Duty or whatever, but like that's not going to serve my family very well. Right.
No.
But going out and taking this action and getting uncomfortable and networking. In last week's episode, we talked to Eric Upchurch from Active Duty Passive Income, and he talked about he talked about how you need to basically just show up, and that's a part of it. So if you had somebody that was just looking to get started, you mentioned these communities, like it's got a secret handshake. I run a meetup, like a local meetup, so I'm familiar with it, but what is that? Like, what is a community, or where did you meet this banker and just some of these folks that you just mentioned?
Well, a lot of new people ask me and, message me like, how can I get in? How can I get in? Or I want to do real estate, and then like my favorite answer to that question is like, go find a networking event. There's lots and lots of meetups, and I'll send them some links and stuff. Facebook is real good about these events. You can or go to meetup.com or the app and just type in your city real estate investing meetup, or Google your local city real estate investing association. There's a ton of, like, for us, we have probably about half a dozen good meetups, and there's more popping up every day. And I also tell them, like, you see my friends, people that I comment on, or people that comment on my posts about real estate related, go in there and add them. Like, add these random people, because you could find a friend and they might be putting up some value, and you can go follow them and see what they're doing, and just add all these new real estate people. That way you see what they're doing, and they might be a host to Meetup, and then you can just join. It's all public info on Facebook, and that's where bankers are at. They want to loan you money, and create, find partnerships there, find deals, sell deals,
Yeah, I think the local like in your backyard type stuff is good, but also if you don't have one, like this Facebook community, this group is in essence a meetup that doesn't have a geographical boundary. So don't be afraid to ask your questions on here. So Tyler, it looked like you had something. I'm sorry.
No, and I was just going to say that, yeah, like, and if people can't go out to the local meetup, like the community that we've created, there's other communities out there. And what you're doing is you're changing your surroundings. Mm-hmm. You're getting around people who are on the same mission as you, whether it's, from the lending side, the title side, the agent side, and they're all on the same mission, and you're talking about things that are different. Like you mentioned Call of Duty, right? You're not talking about Call of Duty, or like, let's say it's a car show or whatever. You're focused on real estate investing. You're surrounding yourself with those people. And usually power comes through proximity. I think Ed Milet always says that. And it's just, you are constantly hearing the same thing over and over until it's like, oh, this is all clicking. And like you mentioned, Jay, that's how you met your banker there. That's how you're going to meet all these people. It's just getting out there and doing it without any, at first you don't even really need like a specific, I'm going to this meetup to meet this person. It's, I'm going to get into this Facebook group, or I'm going to go to this meetup to surround myself with people who are like-minded. And then for me, it's like, see what happens after that. And then you realize, oh, hey, I met a banker who has money. I met this wholesaler who has deals, and you continually progress. Yeah. But I think that's huge. And I think it's good that you're willing to put yourself out there. And like Mike said, for us, the hardest part that we have right now is people, as engaging as far as that first step. And it looks like you had no problem taking that first step. You knew what you wanted to do. You went out and you did it. And then now you're enjoying those fruits. But for those of the people that are listening, what were when you went there, did you have an intention of meeting the banker? Did you have an intention of meeting somebody, or I just want to get in the room?
I just want to get in a room, like you said, power by proximity. I want to be in a room who are, making $1 million a year in real estate. You want to be a millionaire, surround yourself with millionaires. I want to be in a room with those successful people we all have the same goal. We want financial freedom. We want time freedom. We want to create legacy wealth for our family, and I didn't know anything. I read a lot of books about it, podcasts, and finally I took action and showed up, stood in the back or sat in the back, didn't talk to nobody because I was a little nervous. And, and then finally I went again and again. I just kind of got out of my comfort zone and got out of my shell really and started talking to these people. Like, I added this guy on Facebook. I saw that he does a ton of flips. Let me go introduce myself. I've heard about this hard money lender or this local lender or this private lender. Let me go just talk. And like, if I would just sit in the back and listen to the speaker or panel and not take any action, I wouldn't be where I'm at, So just going out there making these connections and showing up and, all right, cool. To answer your question, I just went in there just to be around and just soak up all the info because I don't know what I want to, focus in on. Wholesaling, rentals, flips, Airbnbs and all. There's so many different things. And I have the issue right now with the shiny object syndrome. I want to do it all. But we kind of hold in and just buy and hold rentals. We did wholesaling for a little bit. We have a couple Airbnbs that are doing pretty good. But our main bread and butter is just rental properties. So.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Like you're doing rentals right now and it could change in a year or two, but it sounds like, if you have 7 projects going on, you guys are staying super busy. And like Mike said, it's the slow road to wealth, but it's proven time and time again, it's going to give you more options. And at the end of the day, it could allow you to build more capital. And for me, what was interesting is you said that you found this banker that was going to give you up to 80% of the ARV as far as a loan goes, which enabled you to go on your journey. And now you're still focused on rentals. I'm assuming you said it's only you, so you're not actually doing the physical work yourself, are you? Or
No.
do you have a contractor?
No, I'm not that talented. No, I have a contract. We have a few.
Me either. It's okay.
That first duplex, I was coming out of back surgery and stuff, so I'm still like super sore. That's another thing. I got hurt on the job and ended up having that back surgery. So that's another reason, like, oh my gosh, what if I could do this and get in and I'm out of the career, So I need something to build on the side to, help just in case, or second source of income and retirement. But anyways, I was painting. Me and my dad were painting the other unit, and I'm on my back and knees. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? And I was like, I suck at painting. I hated it. And so now I outsource absolutely everything, So we have a couple crews, not our crews, but, I've GC'd some jobs, and then I've hired a contractor to run everything. And so, yeah, I don't swing a hammer at all. I did that one time, which was rolling a paint roll, and that's all I've done. So
but
majority is GCs.
That's good though, because that's going to allow you to scale to whatever you want because you physically can't do all the work. So you have the contractors who are doing the work for you. We know where your money comes from, that banker. So my question would be, and it's because I know a lot of people get hung up on it. So you buy the property with the banker, the hard money, private money banker that you have. You guys rehab the properties, then you turn them into rentals. What do you do with your existing capital? Do you keep it in place? Do you refinance it out so you can start over? What does that look like? Once you're done with the rehab, do you refinance, then rent it? Do you rent it, then refinance? How do you do that?
Well, so these loans, we've gotten a relationship built with, multiple lenders now. We have, I think, at least a dozen local banks that we're using and a couple of private lenders. But really, they give us all the money we need for, a project. So it covers up to like 75 or 80%. So they'll cover the purchase price and the rehab. And so let's just say for simple numbers, it's $100,000 house that's worth up, after it's fixed up and stuff. The bank will give me, 75% of that. So 75 grand. The purchase price was 50. The rehab is 20 grand. I'm all in 70, but the bank gave me 75. And so if I'm cheating my rehab, I keep that extra $5,000. I mean, it's leverage. It's free money. I don't have to pay taxes on it, you know? So that's like, you know, it's a plus. And so like 2 years or last year, when the rates were like 4% on commercial loans, it was great. Not right now. We started refining, you know, we got a little equity since we've been buying in 2019, and we started just doing the BRRRR method, you know, because then we start getting more people who want to loan us money. And so let me back up on that first deal. It's like after it's stabilized and, you know, rented out, it just stays on a 20-year amortization or 25-year amortization. So once rehab's done, you pocket that money and you just got a long-term loan. But we started to scale and get more deals sent out to us. And we're like, all right, so this banker will only give us a little bit of money. He gave us a small line of credit at first. You know, of course, you build a relationship, you get more and more money lent out to you. But we started finding other bankers and other lenders, or private lenders. So there's private lenders will loan us money and, you know, go in there, fix it up, and then we'll BRRRR and we'll find the next banker at a, you know, cheaper rate. Just a BRRRR strategy. Pay off the private lender, you know, 12% interest. It's high or whatever. I'll pay them 12.4 all day, 4 points, 12%, because it's 100% passive for them. And you know, we did the BRRRR. We can do cash out, and it was nice for that whole year. We did like 10 or so, you know, cash out refis. It was nice, and so the extra money is just going back into the business and, you know, stuff like that. So rinse and repeat until you got 100, you know, or more.
How do you evaluate a rental? Like how do you sit there and say, like, hey, this is going to make sense. This is the number I need it at. Cause I think that's obviously a question that you're going to have different answers to, but like when you look at like, what makes it say like, this is going to be a good rental. This is the price I need it, or no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So I kind of do the back out method. I see what the costs I would want, like 75% of ARV minus your rehab and all that. I still do that, but I'll look at what I'm going to get a loan on this property, what my mortgage payment would be, you know? So I put in 20, like I know one banker number one is going to give me 25-year amortization. Right now he's at 7.38. You know, it's pretty high, you know, 7.38 interest. So I'm like, all right, cool. If I loan this amount of money on this house, which covers your purchase price and the rehab, this is my debt service, my mortgage payment. What's the rental area? What's the rental comps in that area? Do I need to do Section 8? Because we started with Section 8, you know, pays a little bit more. Or what's the rent, you know? And right now it's hard to cash flow with these loans at 8.5%, you know? It sucks. So we just got to get it super cheap, like 50 cents on the dollar. So really I use a mortgage calculator and see what my debt service is going to be in relation to the cash flow, how much cash flow I want off these properties. So I'm okay with like $200 slow cash flow or very little cash flow, because we don't know if the rates are going to drop again next year, 2 years, 3 years from now. At least I'll have the debt pay down, you know, it'll equity be built up over time. So whenever we're ready to do the BRRRR again, we'll just refinance to a lower bank. So it's rough for buying and holding right now. There's still a high rental. It's slowed down as far as the rental demands. I know a lot of people are having a hard time in this market. Rentals are staying on market for a little longer than they would like. So I think it's all about the pricing. People are like, the rental demand's so high, so they're charging a 2-bed $1,300, which in our town that's a lot. So we try to like be affordable.
Yeah, where Tyler lives, it doesn't have a roof. You know,
it's crazy.
You got to really, you really got to know your local area or wherever.
Exactly. And so I know that won't work for me, you know, so you just got to run your numbers. Every deal is different. And I don't want to leverage, if the bank can give me 80%, 75%, I don't want to leverage all of that because my debt service will be too high. Well, so
it gives you a little more comfort whenever you know you're at like 60% loan to value or something. You can take a 15% dip in the market, and you may not be able to sell it and make a bunch of money, but over the course of time, you know, it's going to basically kind of correct. So
yeah, exactly. And then since we're holding, if I did got a 60% loan of value, you know, loan, I could get 80, but I don't want to leverage that high. So if I get 60, I'm cash flowing pretty good. I mean, kind of depends.
Sure.
But I have equity in that house. So think about all my portfolio. Let's just say I have like 12 of them right now, and I'm all leveraged 60%. I mean, that's a lot of net worth you're adding. And so you take that personal financial statement and take it to the banker, number 3 or 4 banker you're trying to get money from. Be like, hey, this is my net worth. I'm now net worth $1 million now. So banker's like, oh, okay, we want to loan you money. So I don't want to leverage all the way up because it hurts my personal financial statement, my net worth. So
Sure.
they see you know what you're doing. They want to give you more money, and more money means more assets. So
More opportunities.
more opportunities.
It's a bigger, more tools in the toolbox type thing. So you mentioned, so a personal financial statement. So I remember the first time I did that, it was very laborsome and I didn't have all my ducks in a row. And now it's a lot easier to update. So basically a personal financial statement for those that maybe aren't familiar. And I do mine on Excel. It's just on a spreadsheet, and it basically says like, here's all the things I own. Here's all the cash I have. Here's all the notes receivable I have. And then here's all the notes payable I have. Here's the debt I have. And it basically gives somebody a snapshot, so to speak, of what your finances look like. And, I think a lot of people hear the term debt and automatically think it's a bad thing. And while there are some circumstances where that is absolutely the case, like if you have $38,000 in credit card debt, that's what I would call bad debt.
Yeah,
but if you have $38,000 worth of debt on a house that's worth $90,000,
that's good.
Then, and it's paying you $900 a month, right? That I would argue that that's good debt. Now there's the Dave Ramsey disciples and all these other people that I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying like some people hear the term debt and like, oh, you have millions of dollars in debt. Yeah. But it's you got millions of dollars of equity here, or, this, whatever. I'm not saying my circumstance. I'm just saying in general, like it's one of those that gives somebody a snapshot of what your financial position looks like. And a lot of times they want to see you got cash in the bank, not necessarily their bank. They like it to be their bank, but they want to make sure that you have some liquidity if you have to weather a storm. Right. So,
right.
So Jay, you've chose for the most part, it sounds like, the single family, the duplex, maybe a triplex here and there. Like, is that correct? Mostly single family.
Well, we don't have any triplexes, but like single families and duplex. So we're always on the hunt for more units under the same roof, small apartments and stuff, and trying to jump ship to commercial. But we'll still buy single families. I mean, I love single families. We can get some cheap right now and do a complete renovation, and you can sell it for, a big profit, if you're flipping. So, we still will buy single families and, just trying to work on graduating to the next bigger deal. Like, hey, let's add an extra digit to our contract, our next one that we buy. Just it's a mindset thing too. Like you're into self-storage, that's awesome. That's another thing that I would like to at some point, I'm going to these meetups for self-storage as well. So, just playing Monopoly, graduating from single families to hotels and apartments,
Trying to change out the houses on Boardwalk and Park Place for hotels, right?
Yep.
And it's one of them things. I wish I would have listened to all the folks sooner. And, I said this last week, I wish if I could go back in time, I would have scaled bigger sooner. And, like we were talking to Eric, and he went from basically parlaying his personal residence into 5,000 units and a 70,000 member community. I think one of my problems is I still think small at times. And, whenever I peel back the onion, like, why is that? Like, I guess to some extent it's that comfort thing. Like you might at the time think you're thinking big, but when you sit there and talk to somebody that's got 5,000 units now, and he sounds like small potatoes when you talk to a guy like Grant Cardone, and, and not that you want to, I said, you got to run your own race. Like, so, take my own advice there. Right. I don't want to necessarily compare myself to people, but whenever I hear what you just said, like add another zero to a contract or this, it really is just numbers. And like, it's the same basically concept to do a 4 unit or a 40 unit or a 400 unit.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's definitely some variables in there that are different, but I would argue it's probably almost easier. So I'll give you a little example. So we have our one storage facility has about 115 units. Okay. And then I have a smaller storage facility that has about 32 units. Both of them take about the same amount of time to
close.
manage.
Okay.
Oh, just to manage, just the weekly, ops call with my facility managers and stuff like. So the price tag for the 115 versus the 32 is different, a good bit different, but I think it's almost easier to go a little bit bigger because now instead of 32 customers, I have 115. It almost spreads your risk out more versus if you only have one rental and it goes vacant, you now have 0% income. Whereas if you have, do you mind ballparking like how big's your portfolio right now?
We're a few dozen right now. So.
Okay. So you got a few dozen, right? So if one goes vacant, the herd basically takes care of that one. Whereas if you only got one, and that's why I personally started with the side-by-side duplex model. I ended up buying 18 units, 9 side-by-side duplexes, so that if one side was vacant, I wasn't really making a lot, but I was not losing anything either, right? And then what I did is I took it one step further. I did one side Section 8, one side called fair market. So like I had basically guaranteed income with the Section 8. So again, serving that like comfort model, like, oh no, if somebody doesn't rent it, at least I know I have income. So
it's nice to know that you have an income coming in,
Yeah, it's always a plus.
Yeah,
it's a very integral part of this business. So
because we got 2 vacancies coming up and we're like, okay, crap, so they're going to be 100% vacant, versus a little small 6 unit or whatnot. And that's another thing people don't realize. Like, hey, you're building a portfolio, you're doing the rehab, you're hunting for deals, dealing with private money, property management, and then boom, all of a sudden you have like all these vacancies pop up, people moving out. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to put more money in it, turn around quickly, because it's paying for itself. But when you have 1 or 2, it's not bad. But when you have 4 or 5 or more, it kind of hurts. So that's why be liquid.
That's why it's very important. I used to always underwrite an 8% vacancy. That's 1 month out of the year. So always be setting aside a vacancy. Oh, that thing hasn't been vacant for 3 years. Well, when it does go vacant, you want to make sure you got a couple dollars set aside to basically pay the bills while it is vacant, because at that point it's going to need a little turnover and rehab. So one of the things, and this is, I'm not excluded from this. Like when you first start out, like I did an account for management. Okay. Well, I self-manage. Well, one day you're not. So make sure you underwrite so that you include management. Capital expenditures, different than like just the routine maintenance call. Like you said about a handyman, you're going to have the little nickel and dime stuff, but make sure you're setting aside some money for when it needs a roof or a furnace or whatever. And you might go a year or 2 without ever having to stroke a check like that. And then all of a sudden you're going to need a roof, a furnace, 2 hot water heaters, and 3 windows, all within about a month. So making sure you set that up.
They all come at the same time. It's so weird.
Yeah. So, and well, that's one of the things I see people make a mistake with rentals is not basically setting certain monies aside or budgeting for things like rehab or capital expenditures. So, you mentioned you're doing everything right now. What is probably the one thing that you didn't think about when you decided to get into rentals that has been surprising to you or problematic?
I didn't think how time consuming it would be, because we all want to get into like, for the W-2 workers.
Rentals are super passive, remember? It's passive income.
That's what they say, right? YouTube University says passive. It's absolutely not. But
not at all.
People get into it to like, I quit my job and spend my time with my family and stuff. But people got into the bad habit of like, now you're being away. You're quitting your job. That's awesome. But now you're spending more time on that rental business or real estate business, and you're still missing out on a lot of family time. And sometimes I rush home. I spend 10 hours of my days off just running around, managing all these things. And I'm like, crap, I forgot about soccer practice. Or like my wife's like, you come home yet? Your daughter's asking for you because you're gone for 24 hours at a time when we're at work. So that's one thing I got to think about. We're gone a third of our lifetime from our family. And you know, and at the level I'm at right now, running ragged all over the place, you know, being away and doing a lot of work, trying to make it happen for your family, legacy wealth, this and that. But at the same time, I need to like shut off super early, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes all these things you think you're doing for the family, now all of a sudden it's like they're the ones getting shortchanged the most. So one thing I
Mhm.
would encourage you to do, and it was kind of scary for me, like the first time I hired somebody full time, was write down on a legal pad all the things you do on a daily basis. And with a lot of these projects now, there's going to be certain tasks that only Jay can do, right? The
Mhm.
raising the meeting with the banker, or this, that, whatever.
Yeah,
But there's
raising
going to
money.
be a lot of things, and go hire yourself a virtual assistant. I have two of them full time, 40 hours a week. For probably 12 to 1400 bucks, you can get a quality person
Mhm.
in the Philippines or wherever. They're all over now. Um, and you know, systematize the things that are time consuming. Like, one of the first things I got off my plate, because I hated it, was anytime we had to change utilities, like get the water switched
Yeah.
over, get the electric, whatever that was,
Oh, I
So,
completely
so
agree.
my
Yeah.
virtual assistant, I even hate to use the word virtual, like, man, like just straight up team member, right? They
Right.
just happen to be in the Philippines. They, I haven't dealt with a utility transfer for a couple years now. Like, we built a system. You use Loom to record yourself doing it, put it in a drive folder, and now you can start to build your systems manual for J properties, and you start to offload a little bit here, a little bit there, and then you do your weekly call, and you basically just touch base. And like, we use Voxer, it's kind of like Slack, basically, to
Boxer.
communicate.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
familiar with that.
so we use Voxer to communicate on certain things. So like, if they need to ask me a question, boom, we got it. So back to that, like, wherever you're present, be present. So if I'm at the firehouse, I know these things are getting handled. That's not to say like I won't get a text message here and there. Like, I get it, but like, I
Mhm.
can respond back with a text message or a quick Voxer, boom, they got what they need, and the train's still rolling down the tracks. So that was one of the things I did, and that became freeing, because eventually you're going to hit a point of burnout, especially with another one on the way. Add into the
Mhm.
portfolio, your 7 rehabs. I'm telling you, I've been there, right?
Promotional
And
exams. Yeah.
that's why, yeah, and that's why one of my goals for 2023 was not to flip a house. Like, that was one of my goals. I'm not flipping a house this year. Not because I can't, not because I can't make great money, but it's time consuming, even with systems. And I mean, we were doing a lot of them the last couple of years, but so now I want to get my business to a point it's so boring, I have to like look for things to do. And I'm
Mhm.
not there yet, but we're trying to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, and offload a lot of these things so that you're not running around working 40, 50 hours in addition to your 48 at the firehouse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I completely 100% agree. I get that. I'm in the beginning process. I guess it's painful at this moment, because we're growing so fast. And now I'm looking to, all right, how can I scale and take a lot of stuff off my plate? Because I can't do it all from my phone at the station. And most of the part contractors text and, Home Depot text to confirm. That's easy. But the other stuff, like, virtual assistants, like, I got a ton of mail that I need to sift through and open up, and a lot of
get
them
a virtual
utility bills.
mailbox.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yes, and so
Yep.
we're still learning. I'm writing all the things that I do not want to do anymore in my business, like you said. All the things I'm doing, and all the things I don't want to do or I can outsource. And I was kind of trying to get my lovely wife to do some of those things, but now she still works a W-2 job, and she is like 8.5 months pregnant, or 8 months, I don't know. And I want her to do nothing but just hang out. I hate that she's working. And another reason getting in real estate is like, I want to retire her from her job. We're trying to double her income with real estate. And then I'm at the job, and then the baby and all that. So I think I'm still looking for other ways to, like, hey, take this off of my plate. And like you said, I need to get back into find a virtual assistant or a personal assistant or someone, just to help me out, because obviously we all know we can't do it all. How
I,
can we scale?
I can give you the information for the company I used. They did a lot of the vetting process. Now you can definitely check out, like, online
Fiverr or
jobs.
something?
Online. Yeah, I've been down that road. Online jobs. Is it PH?
PH, yeah.
But I'll shoot you the information for the company I use. That's where I've hired both, and we've had one for 3 and one for a little over a year and a half. So
Yeah, that's good.
I'm happy with
Well,
it. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you get tempted by like online jobs. PH is going to be cheaper than I'm assuming what Mike is going to recommend, but you also get the benefit of training and vetting from a company that's going to save you a ton of time, even with that additional cost. Like all of my VAs now that I have, they're all through different agencies and they've been trained. Saves me a lot of time and money, and time right now is what it sounds like you don't have a ton of, right? You're at max capacity. So I was thinking of when you guys were talking, it's like you're almost at that point where you need to take a tactical pause. It's like, hey, I'm busy. For us, right? You're advancing on the fire, whatever you want to say. Hey, what is going on? How can I change tactics perhaps to make my life easier? And I agree with Mike, 100% VA. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Just like you went into that room and got comfortable enough to talk to somebody, and then that grew. Soon as you start to focus on it, if you're renting, I would say 90% of the things that you want to have done for property management, like utilities, changeovers, leases, any call from any tenant can go directly to them. Any type of service issue, hey, here's our list of approved vendors that we are okay with, or here's our contractors' numbers. The call comes in from the tenant, goes to your VA. The VA sends it to the appropriate people, and then a certain dollar amount, any repair over $100 has to be approved by Jay. You're going to start to realize you're going to get so much of your time back. I would encourage you not to fill that time with something new, but like you said, to really like slow down a little bit, get smart. Cause I've been there. I had we had 7 rehabs going. I was working full time at the fire department and I had my mortgage business going. And I was like, dude, I'm just drowning right now. This is not why I did any of this. Now that, like Mike said, I didn't have I'm very much more intentional with the opportunities I'm taking. And at a few dozen, I would say you're at the point where you should probably say, hey, I needed to design a little bit of this now. I know how to get money. I know how to buy rentals. I know how to rent properties out. How do I make this to where it's streamlined? I think adding one VA, I mean, you could legitimately hire your VA who is a property manager. Like that could be their full-time job, 40 hours a week. And I think it would drastically change your business for you, and maybe focus your attention on the next 90 days on that. And I'm sure whoever Mike's going to give you, I'm sure has been vetted and trained. It would save you a lot of time. And I think it would make, especially with the second one for us, I know it changed a ton of stuff. Right. I mean, it's not 1 + 1, it's 1 times 10 is,
yeah. So, and the thing is, like the VAs, you can hire some really quality talent. And I did things like I paid my accountant to basically virtually train them on certain things. So all the QuickBooks said, how much would it cost for like a half a day or a day for you to sit down with this person? And, the one good thing that came out of COVID was the utilization of Zoom and Teams meetings and things like this became a lot more normalized. So like, even though she's in the Philippines and they're in the United States, like they basically did a training on this is how we want the QuickBooks, this is how we want that. So, and I've tried to get rid of all paper in my business. So everything's DocuSign and scanned, and I just scan it all, goes to her, and then she inputs it, attaches it to the QuickBooks. And that was just like one thing to get off my plate. Right. So I don't know. I kind of adopted some of the philosophy of like, before you get bigger, worry about getting better. And sometimes I think we get so consumed about growing the portfolio where it could be like, to use Tyler's terminology, the tactical pause, like now let's focus on getting a more efficient business, a more efficient portfolio before you end up with just a giant mess. And then it's like, wow, we have this big thing, but now we have no system to work off of. And if we wanted to go away for a week, we couldn't because everything will implode. Right.
Yeah. I like the way you said it, Tyler, the tactical pause. That's something that we've been talking to me and my wife about, that something like that. When we have our baby, I'm going to be on baby leave. So I'm going to be off for 2 or 3 months. So
it's a great time.
Exactly. Just kind of just take a breather, see what we need to do in our business and let it run like it usually is on itself, but like more efficiently without my time, and definitely not buying anything, finishing what we have right now. We're not going to finish all of it by the time baby comes in the end of April, but hopefully at that time we'll be a lot less busy, and then we can go into bringing our baby girl into this world without worrying about all that extra stuff. The type of pause is good. I like that.
So Tyler's got a Discipline Equals Freedom sweatshirt on, and I'd like to kind of parlay that like systems equal freedom, because if you just take the time to just create something, like right now I'm building a long story short, like basically a marketing campaign for something, and I'm working through all the different steps and the little nitty gritty stuff, and I'm recording all these videos and I'm sending them to the appropriate teammate, and they're basically then doing it, and then we have to adjust. So like what we end up with the final product, it wasn't what I started with, but it has to go through all these little iterations. So the message there is like, don't worry about it being like the perfect program or perfect system. Worry about getting something started and then tweaking as need be. So, cause that was something I fought internally. It was like, oh, I have to wait till I have the system perfect before I record it and train this person. Nah, man, what I did is like record it, ready, fire, aim, and then we'll tweak as we kind of go through it. So,
yeah. Awesome.
Well, we're coming up on about an hour, man. So there's some things like we usually ask most of our guests, like if you could go back and tell younger Jay any life advice, like whether it be job, business, life, whatever, what would that be?
Man, start thinking about financial freedom before all that family time comes. Get set up now. Don't go out and party. Invest in those.
Or if you do, moderation. Yeah.
Don't do what I did, because I waste a lot of time. I had fun, but just pick up some self-help books. Get in the right crowd. Maybe buy an asset in your 20s. There's a lot of guys in our town that are young, 21-year-olds. They're out there, and I wish I would have got into it at that time. But it's never too late to invest in real estate. So. That's pretty much what I got. Just stay focused. Think about what's going to happen in your life down the road, and not think about it in the moment right now, and trying to just go out and party and living in the moment, So I know it's harder for younger people to not think like that, but so.
Yeah. If you could just go back and either buy or invest into one asset a year, starting at like 18, just think about where you'd be.
Oh,
right?
Man. No.
You don't even have to I'm not even saying don't go live your life and live in the moment and party and whatnot, but just think if you would have just bought one house a year or invested 10 grand a year into some index fund. I'm not a big stock market guy, but if you would have done all that, by the time you got to 40, you would have just been like in a whole nother stratosphere than most of the folks.
Yeah. You'd be definitely set up at that time. Yeah. So, and there was no one there to talk to me about that kind of stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
My parents didn't know anything about investing or stocks or assets, stuff like that. I found out on my own, social media and whatnot, and I wanted it. And I wish I found out about that a lot earlier, or maybe had someone talk to me about it in my younger age. So
yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing. Like I always believe in like having somebody to follow and having somebody to lead. So like there's guys that I aspire to be like because of where they're at with, life or being a father or a business owner. And then there's guys that I'm trying to help basically, get their first deal and do things. So like you're not ever going to be at the finish line. You're just always in that like some phase of the race, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get to a point in your investing journey where you're like, I wish I would have known this when I was buying a couple dozen single families, wearing the cymbals and smoking the cigarette and playing the drums and guitar, like you're going to wish you would have known those things. Right. So,
right.
Well, if people want to connect with you, Jay, what's the best place to get a hold of you? Or
they could just find me on Facebook. Just type in Jay Gonzales. You could just find me on Facebook. I'm not really active on Instagram, on Facebook a lot. I post a lot of content of our projects and try to provide some value. But if you want to just connect with me, hit me up in a direct message, add me and whatnot, and we can go from there. So
slide into the DMs.
Yep. Appreciate you guys having me on here. It's been good.
Yeah, Jay, I'll shoot you a
Thank
couple
you.
things. I got a couple guys that I'd like to connect you with if you don't already know them in your area, and then also put you in touch with the virtual assistant agency that I go through.
Definitely,
Right.
definitely that. And I probably know those guys too.
Probably.
Yeah.
But all right, man. Well,
They
Kyle,
owe
you
me
got
money.
anything?
One of them does at least.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm good. I just thank you, Jay. I'm sure this is going to be hugely beneficial. And yeah, like Mike said, we have a couple guys in or kids are going crazy. There you go. There's two. But we have a couple guys to connect you with. Let me know if we can do anything else for you. And I appreciate you sharing your story.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. If you found value in anything you heard, please share with someone who may benefit. We look forward to connecting between shows in our Facebook group, First Responder Financial Freedom. Till next time.